Hola everybody, welcome back to my channel. Bienvenidos, soy Morgan. I'm Morgan, and today I'm going to be talking about 10 things I do not like about Spain. I know some people are going to get mad about these things, but for those of you who have said that I have perhaps romanticized Spain a little bit, this video is for you. Also, if you are planning to go to Spain in the future, whether it's just for a vacation, you want to teach English, you want to move there, this is a great video to watch. You can also watch my video about 10 things I love about Spain. For what it's worth, it was really hard to make this list. It required a lot of time because there's more things I like about Spain than things I don't like about it. Before we get started, please subscribe to my channel if you have not already. It really helps me out. Go ahead and throw this video a like if you want to. That also helps me. And if you want to follow me on Instagram at Hola Morgan, we have more personal conversations on there. We have fun. I'm on there almost every day, and it's a great way to interact with each other. Without further ado, let's get started. Vamos a empezar. Number 1. I'm nervous to make this video because I know people are gonna get upset. Whatever. Number 1, the mañana attitude gets frustrating sometimes. There's a lot of benefits to this, but when it comes to logistical things such as doctor's appointments or scheduling something, it gets really difficult. For example, I got sick a lot when I was living in Madrid. I can talk about this in a different video, but I got sick pretty much every month. It was really hard on my body. And I kept trying to make a doctor's appointment, and my doctor kept ignoring me and saying like, you can come in next week. Actually, no, come in next week, come in next week. And it made it really hard because I didn't really get too many days off from work. I couldn't just go to the doctor whenever I wanted to. And I ended up getting even more sick, and I couldn't get the medicine that I needed to. So that was really hard. That's an example of when the mañana attitude is not so guay, you know what I mean? Number 2, logistical things in general seem to be very difficult in Spain. Like unnecessarily difficult. I'll tell you what I mean. Let's say you need an official document. Chances are you're going to have to travel kind of far to go get it. And then once you go to the place that you need to get to, surprise, there's a random Spanish holiday that you didn't know about. You traveled all this way, now you have to go back, but you don't have enough time off work to go back the next day. I know for foreigners like me, there were so many forms that I had to go through. It was a very long process. To get my transportation card, it was called an abono. I'll insert a video here of me having a nervous breakdown after finally getting it, because maybe that just needs to be a separate video. I thought I was losing my mind. It was so hard to get it. It was just as difficult as it could be for like no reason. And that's what made it so frustrating, is like, this should not be hard, but it is. Another logistical thing that was hard as a foreigner living in Spain was renting a place. Not only was it really competitive, but transferring money from a bank in the US to Spain seemed really challenging. I had to go to the bank, but then the bank was closed, then you have to go back the next day. I couldn't make an international call on my phone, so then you have to walk to the phone store. And then you have to buy a certain amount of minutes, and it only applies to certain countries, so you have to specify that. But then if you don't use it within 3 days, then you have to go back again. And then if you forget, then you get charged like $80. Just things like that were very difficult. Before we really start this video, I want to preface this and say, these are first world problems, okay? There were no dire situations. It was a privilege to live in Spain. It's a privilege to live where I live in the US. Let's keep that in mind, okay? I know that there are so many worse problems out there. That's not what I'm talking about. Maybe we can have those conversations later. This video is about the minor inconveniences of living in Spain, so just keep that in mind when we're watching this. Number 3, my American perspective is really gonna shine through here. There is not like one big convenience store where you can get everything. Here we have things like IKEA, Costco, Target, Walmart, where you can get anything you would ever need all in the same place. In Spain, things are much more spread out. Like if you want to get batteries, you have to go to one store. A plant, another store. Meat, another store. A pillow, another store. And none of them are close to each other. Is this bad? It's not bad, it's just, that sounds very spoiled of me. It's more so a convenience factor because the US is absolutely built on convenience. I have a love/deep hate relationship with that kind of notion. I think most people here do. But in Spain, there's just not one place where you can get it all together, so it definitely wasn't as convenient. Not bad, just different. Number 4, I noticed there was a lack of variety in food choices. Maybe I just wasn't going to the right stores, but I've heard from many people and kind of done some reading online that there's just not as many exports in Spain, so the food options are more limited. In the US, most people here are accustomed to having several food options. Our grocery stores are gigantic, it's kind of ridiculous, but that doesn't exist in Spain. I'll give you an example. Let's say you want to get potatoes at the store. Maybe there's only 2 types of potatoes at a grocery store in Spain. Whereas in the US, we have like 12 types of potatoes, which is kind of ridiculous, but it is nice to have options. I'm also someone who really likes to cook, so for me, having a lot of variety and options is really cool, but you can make do with anything. Number 5, this one was really hard. There seems to be like a lack of toilet paper everywhere, whether you're using the bathroom at the park, the metro station, a store, you get like shrivels of toilet paper, especially at the bars. There's just not like an ample supply of toilet paper, which there's no positive side to that. If you know, you know. It's not a fun situation to be in. If someone wants to explain that to me, or if you have also noticed that, like, let me know. I learned to keep a pack of tissues with me for obvious reasons, so let's just leave it there. Let me know if you've unfortunately noticed that too, or had a perhaps traumatic experience with a lack of toilet paper. Number 6, most places in Spain do not have air conditioning units, which for most of the year, that's fine. But in the summer, it gets super, super hot there. And not having any air conditioning besides like in the grocery store gets very sweaty, and it kind of makes you not want to move because it's just so hot. I worked in Toledo for a few weeks in the summer, and it was so hot at night, and even with the windows open, it just did not matter. I would literally get towels and put cold water on them and sleep with wet towels on my legs because it was so hot at night. Great for the environment, good for the planet, love that, but sleeping in the heat is not fun. Number 7, there seems to be a lack of personal space on public transportation, whether it's crowded or not. It's definitely not fun to step onto the metro and people are like on you, but you kind of just get used to that. But I remember sometimes I would be riding the bus to school and people in front of me would lean their seat back all the way. Like, you know, if you've been on a bus in Spain, the seats lean nearly all the way back. So people would just be laying in my lap sometimes. Like, I could look down at them and be like, ¿Estás cómoda? Like, what are we doing here? ¿Qué hacemos? I really appreciate the public transportation, but just keep in mind that you're probably not going to have tons of personal space. I assume this has changed with the pandemic and there's probably more boundaries set up, but it's just something that you should be aware of. Number 8, if you are a foreigner living in Spain for a certain amount of time, it can be hard to form new relationships with locals because people know that you're not going to live in Spain forever, maybe a year, maybe a couple years, but that can make people kind of distance themselves for you, which I get because I think it's they're setting up boundaries for themselves, like maybe I don't want to get attached to this person, so I'm not really gonna try and put effort into this relationship. I think for me that was hard because I'm just used to moving all the time. So I didn't really make too many friends with Spanish locals, but I get why. Number 9, this one's kind of a personal thing. I wouldn't say it's all about Spain. My neighbors. Did not like my neighbors in Spain. They were really mean. My building was special. I lived on an awesome street, coolest neighborhood in the whole entire world. But my neighbors hated us so much, and I feel like we're always really quiet, but if we watch TV maybe a few notches louder than their liking, they would literally kind of bang on the door and start yelling at us in Spanish, which is not a good feeling when you have an old Spanish man screaming at you and you don't really know what he's saying. We could never have friends over. We couldn't have like 2 people over to our apartment without our neighbors freaking out, and they told lies about us to our landlord, so that was just a personal stressful thing. If you have a similar experience like that with some of your neighbors, let me know. Number 10, the last thing I don't like about Spain is that it spoiled me. When I returned back to the US, I was super depressed because I missed Spain so much. I know I just listed a bunch of things I didn't like about Spain, but the positives far outweigh the cons of living there. If you want me to make a video about the reverse culture shocks I experienced when I came back to the US, let me know. But yeah, in general, I really loved it. No place is perfect. There's pros and cons to everywhere, so I hope that you liked this video. Let me know what you thought. Remember, we are talking to a person, not a robot. People have feelings, yeah. So, yeah, I hope we can have a healthy, kind conversation about this. And let me know if you have any more video recommendations as well. Hasta luego, gracias por verme y chao.